Well, I want to share a little something with you today, and our focus is going to be on ignorance. Because, well, as I was thinking about this, what kept coming to mind was this phrase. I forget what movie or what show. Oh, I know. I heard it on The Matrix. And the phrase was, you never know when you're in love. You just are. And it's like that with a lot of things. And ignorance is one of those things too. We never know when we are ignorant until we become aware of it. So, we're just there. And I'll be drawing from different authors. And one thing I've learned about in spiritualism by reading these books, both by spiritualists and from the teachings of the souls in that, is that ignorance is something that they don't like. Who likes to be ignorant? You see Beth over here rolling her eyes up, trying to think. Let me see. Who? I'm going to read something to you from Andrew Jackson Davis's Principles of Nature. And he writes that the many sects of society and religion imposed bigotry and ignorance upon reason and harmony. Now, when I was much younger, I had no idea what bigotry was. I connected it with racism. Boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I ignorant. So, just to be clear, I looked it up just to make sure. And bigotry is a refusal to let go of a belief that has been proven false. Does that make sense? And of course, ignorance is lacking knowledge, or more precisely, education. And we connect knowledge with education because, well, that's what we go to school for. We go to school to learn. Of course, for the most part, we learn to remember when we go to school, because that's pretty much all I did in grade school, high school, and good portion college. I really didn't learn how to think until I went into my bachelor's degree. And I did that degree online. And being online, you do a lot of reading. And you do a lot of writing, because you have to demonstrate a knowledge of the material. So, he tells us that the many sects of society and religion impose bigotry and ignorance upon us. What are your thoughts about that? Is that true?
I think so.
Beth thinks so. Excuse me, anybody else?
Yep, especially growing up in Benton Harbor, that is a definite yes.
Connie thinks so. She's in agreement with you. And now, reason is the ability to think or understand. I have to wonder about that. The ability to think. And the only reason I have to wonder about it is because I see some of the silliest things that people do. It's almost as though the Three Stooges was not really a group of comedians that got together, but a group of satirists poking fun at society. Just my thoughts. Just my thoughts.
That's precisely
I mean,
what they did.
What?
That's precisely what the Three Stooges were.
Ah. And she would know, because she likes the Three Stooges. I don't care for them a whole lot. But it seems like good comedy is poking fun at life. Of course, you can't do that today. You'll get in trouble. You get in a lot of trouble today. But reason, the ability to think and understand. And harmony, which is the formation of a consistent whole of agreement. Of course, harmony floats. It's not like a balance. Harmony moves from ignorance to reason to ignorance to reason to, oh boy, what am I doing this for? You should know better. How many of us have done stupid things? Yeah, we're not going to share those. But, the many sects, meaning all parts of society, impose bigotry and ignorance upon us. So they don't want us to let go of anything. They don't want us to progress. Because if we should happen to progress, what happens? Anybody?
Well, the teachings are then questioned. The old ways are questioned.
We supersede
Joel? What?
we supersede those that have the belief that they're smarter or in charge. We surpass them.
Right, you surpass them. Does anybody like to be in a room with somebody who's smarter than they
Oh, I do. I don't like them to be smart aleck,
are?
to be around those who know more than me. Yeah, that's a way of learning.
Precisely. Precisely. And yet, I don't want to go on and on about that. Let's look at the next one. Davis tells us, again, in his Principles of Nature, bigotry and ignorance have destroyed thousands of lives and continue to do so. What are your thoughts about that, Sharon?
Well, it's absolutely ruined many people's lives, destroyed their self-esteem, destroyed their creativity. Just, yeah, definitely.
So this is not something that's new, is it?
No. Mm-mm. And it's still going on.
It is still going on. Absolutely. So now that we know what it does, let's draw from a different author and see where we might stand with this. I don't know why I keep holding my hand up like I'm praying or something. A new habit. Maybe it's from that soul that likes to come through. So let's look at Emanuel Swedenborg's Divine Love. Humanity is so profoundly ignorant as to ask what affection is and what love is. Anybody ask that question? Nobody's asked that question? Wow. All right then. So who wants to go first? What's love?
Love is a very personal thing. Each and every person experiences it in their own way.
Okay.
Just can't understand her.
Yeah, I don't know why her audio was muffled like that.
Is this better?
But she said love is a personal thing. Everyone experiences it differently. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Plus there's many types.
Is there?
Yeah.
How interesting. No wonder we have to ask about it. Anybody else have any thoughts? How about, hey, Jerry, would you like to add to the conversation?
Sure, I just got to figure out where that mute button is. Okay. Um, when we open up our spirit and our chakras and we allow energy to come in and flow out, so love should be a giving and receiving opportunity for it to be in balance and for it to really create passion and excitement in our lives. To me, those, because I'm an aura person, that the heart chakra is the one that is the most powerful. Even though a lot of people would like to think that the solar plexus is, I still think it's the heart, because I feel like our earth plane was created to expand love. So it's the energy flowing between people or in and out of us. I guess that's about it.
Okay. Well, I actually asked that question. In fact, someone that I have a lot of respect for told me to just go off and figure it out. So that's what I did. I went off and I thought about it. I read, I thought, I read, and I thought. That was, let me see here. Carry the one. Almost 30 years ago. I'll be 60 this year, so almost 30 years ago. And it took me 25 of those years to figure it out. To find something substantial. Something that really makes sense. And you know what was even better about all of that? I could find it in the books that I read. Wow. This is, let me see here. Let me get back here. Let me refresh this passage and then we'll do the rest of it. Humanity is so profoundly ignorant as to ask what affection is and what love is. This can only be made clear through the realm of nature, which is life itself. All right, so how many people are confused? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so
But my hand is up too.
what was that?
You can't see it, but my hand is up too.
Oh, okay. Another hand is up. Ken knows all about it, but I'm not going to call on him. You're welcome. What is it that, first off, think about how you define love, and then consider if you see it expressed in nature.
Well, if you define it as nurturance or something on that nurturing scale, that's, you see that in any number of species of animals or birds or even fish that take care of their young.
Take care of their young. Okay. So you're saying it's nurturing.
Well, that's how. Well, you're asking for an expression of love. Nurturance is an expression of love, so I have seen it in nature by how some species take care of their young. So that is one example.
Okay, that's one example. Anybody else want to share? Do they see how they define love in nature? And how it would be expressed in nature? Sharon? I know I didn't ask you what you thought love was, but you have a thought there. So I'm asking if you've seen that thought expressed in nature.
Well, I agree with what Beth said. That kind of was what resonated with me. I'm having a little trouble trying to figure out anything different than that. I don't know. In nature, I'm not sure. I mean, I guess you could say in a kind of an odd way or kind of a roundabout way that the sun coming up in the morning and going down at night is an act of love.
Very good.
You know, it makes you feel not always good every day, but when the sun comes up, I think most people are happy. So, yeah, I think it improves your mind. It improves your well-being, improves your attitude.
It's a good way of describing God's love. The sun comes up, it goes down, and it nurtures. Yes, it nurtures. Reminds me of some of the teachings of Jesus. And here's one: when it rains, not only does it rain on the religious person, but it also rains on the person that's not so religious. Everybody gets equal share. What a concept. So, would anyone else like to offer an opinion or a thought?
Well, I was just thinking, in another analogy is the beauty. The beauty of nature is a form of love. I think the cycles and the beginnings and the growth and the result, whether it's our food that nurtures us, or the beauty of flowers or trees, or and anything like that gives us a sense of well-being and love and calmness. When you're looking out at the beauty of the world, it's a very calming, loving feeling, I think. Even water. Even water, when you think about how soothing water is, and a life force it is, but on the other hand, a soothing, comforting thing that water can be. Just thinking of that.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Here's a question for all of you. Does a slap upside the head express love?
Yep.
Connie said, yep.
Guess it depends on how hard it hurts.
How hard it hurts. Whether there's blood running down your face or something, or you've got this big bruise there. Of course, I think the common phrase is, I ran into a door, or I fell down.
Fell down the stairs, that's what they say in the army,
Fell down the stairs in the army.
when you actually just got beat up in the latrine.
So is that nurturing? Well, it must be to someone. Because I've actually seen people who get beat up by the person they're with, run away, and then a few days later, they run back. And why do they run back? Because they love them. They love each other. Wow. Well, the only thing I can say is, because I could be wrong, just because I don't like something doesn't mean it's not good. Maybe they do nurture each other by battering each other around. It's not something I would go through first. So when I talk about love, it's always nurturing. And the nice thing about nature is in nature, there is no brotherly love. There is no sisterly love. There is no spousal love. There is no friend love. There's simply love. Because everybody gets nurtured. Some get a little more than others. But hey, that's why we have husbands and wives, right? They're supposed to get a little more. But the idea, not only that Swedenborg was impressed to suggest, but also a lot of the souls that come through and the spiritual, well, I shouldn't say a lot of the spiritualist writers because it's questionable there. But the soul teachers, when they come through, they also imply that love is nurturing. When we look to Corinthians. Oh gosh, which chapter is it? I used to know this and I haven't used it in a decade or so.
Do you mean the wedding one? It's 13.
The wedding one?
The one that's always said at weddings,
No.
90% of the time.
No. There's a Bible verse for weddings. Wow, I didn't know that.
Corinthians, first, I don't know if it's first or second, chapter 13.
But this is section called the spiritual gifts.
Ooh. It
Yeah.
it follows what's usually read at weddings when they start talking about spirituality.
Okay.
So it's 14, I think.
Okay.
Check me on it. Check me on it.
I should know this, but I can't find it. Can't find it in here.
Corinthians 1.
But I do know that in Corinthians, it talks about the gifts of the Spirit. And Paul tells us that without love, it's all worthless. Of course, then again, in another translation, which is much better, without charity, it's all worthless. Which is interesting. At least I found it to be. Once I figured it all out, if a message that is given does not somehow nurture you, does not encourage you, inspire you, does not move you to do something more to better yourself in some fashion, some way, maybe considered worthless. Just a thought. Just a thought. Here's a little something, and this comes from Thomas Troward's Hidden Power. And he writes, desire is the principle of creation, the principle of evolution. What we have to do is to acquire the proper knowledge by which to guide our desires to their proper satisfaction. Without proper knowledge, without full knowledge, there is only ignorance and suffering. There's that ignorant word again. Does that make sense? Ken? Does that make sense?
Can you say it again? I
Okay,
got lost for a second there.
that's okay. I probably ran off.
No, you didn't, I did. You say something good and then I go start thinking about that and I miss. Why are you saying that?
Oh, well, that's a compliment. I'll take that as a compliment then.
Well,
Thank
it
you.
You're stimulating,
It is, oh,
okay?
good. It is, desire is the principle of creation. The principle of evolution. And evolution is to become better. What we have to do is to acquire the proper knowledge by which to guide our desires to their proper satisfaction. Without proper knowledge, without full knowledge, there is only ignorance and suffering.
Sure. You say a lot of words to say something that's really very simple. Okay, you get all this love in your heart, so what do you do with it? You have to give it away. It goes where you put your attention.
Exactly.
Thank you. It came from my own experience recently.
Exactly. Very good. So, does anybody else have any thoughts they'd like to share with that? Uh, the dogs do.
Yep.
So here's something that Andrew Jackson Davis wrote in Death and the Afterlife. To be a spiritualist is to identify yourself by a mere term. Makes sense, right? To be spiritual is to possess great progressive ideas. Yes? A spiritual worker is one who works from the essential center, from ideas to applications, from laws to principles. In other words, a spiritualist who is spiritual seeks to achieve a balance, because from that balance, they gain understanding. And from that balance, they move towards something else. And that something else is in nature. And nature is all about harmony. Nature understands that you need a tornado to tear up the trees and the houses and everything to start fresh. Nature understands that we need a volcano to erupt to provide new growth for the land. Do you know what I'm saying there? What am I saying, Sandy?
I think what you've kind of said before is that the death is part of the life, but it has to die to come back. It has to go through the whole process of decay and rot and then regrowth, I think.
I'd say you got it.
Okay, thank you.
I would say you got it. So let's see here. Sharon, what are your thoughts about today's lesson? Today's talk?
Well, I think I came away with some interesting ideas. And as far as, I guess, the thing I always say sometimes to people when they're trying to make a decision about what to do, that you can't go on to the new thing until you let go of the old thing. And I said that a lot, and it's true in my, even in my own life. So yeah, it kind of brought that to the forefront again, because I'd kind of forgotten about it. So, yeah. Yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
Good, good. How about you, Beth? What are your thoughts?
Well, I enjoy talking about this. It's good to stretch the mind a little bit. Looking for examples. Stretches the mind, at least for me.
Good. Any last thoughts, Connie?
I enjoyed it, but one thing that.
I can't hear you.
I enjoyed, can you hear me? Hello?
I can barely hear you. Let me turn up my volume here. Of course, then she'll probably get closer. Okay,
Is that better?
a little bit.
Okay, I enjoyed it. The one thing that you briefly touched on was when you said the ability to understand what you've learned. I think that's a hard part for a lot of people.
It is. It is. Go ahead.
That's all I had, was just that.
It is. It is difficult. It can be very difficult to understand. Like I said, I asked this question about what is love, and I asked it when I was beginning to contemplate divorce from the first person I was married to. Because I wanted to know, I wanted to understand. And like I said, 25 years later, I found something that I could understand, and it was the nurturing. It was the nurturing, because I was not looking for something that was this or this. I was looking for something that was this. Could explain it all. Because, well, didn't our soul teacher tell us we have a habit of making things complicated? So I started looking for something simple, and that was what I came up with. So what are your thoughts, Jerry?
A couple. Thank you. The 9 spiritual gifts, that's in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 1 through 10. And normally I could name like 7 of them, but for some reason I always forget 2, whatever. But what you said about the charity part and something else, without having those other qualities, the spiritual gifts aren't going to work as well. You know, you're not going to be able to communicate those. And the love part, as far as the battered wife or battered husband, it's not that they don't have love for each other, possibly, or love for other people. But when I worked in the foster care system, something they pointed out is we don't have love of self, because we haven't figured out that God doesn't make junk and we're not junk. And we have to value these temples that God gave us and not allow the temples to be abused. So sometimes, even though you love the other person, you still have to stand up for what's right and seek help and encourage others to seek help. That's about it. Thank you.
I love
Good
that
point. Good point.
And she's correct.
Love yourself. What was that?
She is correct. As you know, been there, done that.
Me too. Been there, done that. Still doing that sometimes. It's a difficult thing to love yourself when you spend a good portion of your life being told that you're stupid, you're worthless, Get away from me. How do you combat that? No, combat is the wrong term to use. How do you learn from that? And it's difficult. It will always be difficult. Because you're always looking at yourself. The first person you see in the morning is yourself, typically in the morning, when you look in the mirror, because you want your hair to look good. And if you're a guy, you got to shave. The first person you see in the mirror is yourself. That's a good opportunity to say, man, you're really good looking. You go. Because for the most part, very few people are going to tell you that you're doing well. It's something good to keep in mind, to tell people, thank you, good job, well done. It's good to say that because that could mean the world to them. It's like the smile that a lot of people talk about. Just smiling at somebody makes them feel good. So again, thank you, Ken, for the compliment. And thank you, Jerry, for those words. Very good. Very good. So do you have anything you'd like to share as we wrap this up?
They're looking at me. In our modern culture, you know, we all go online and use, send messages through cell phones and that, and a lot of times when you're typing them out. Typing it out, it will give you the option of putting in a sticker, they call it, or what do you call it?
An emoji.
Thank you. And a lot of, if you type out LOVE, it shows you a heart, which is where it comes from. And I've used that quite a bit. And I found that you have to go back over LOVE and take it out, and then it gives you the heart, and then you can type out LOVE. So what that's got to do with anything, I'm not sure, but the red heart does flag it out in something as impersonal as texting. People love to text, and there's a lot of mistakes made. There are a lot of misunderstandings. There's no inflection of your voice, but if you put down a heart, that helps.
Pictures.
How do I do?
You did
Very
well.
good.
Thank you.
Good job. Pictures. We all think in pictures. We all think in pictures. We like to say, no, I think in words. You know, I don't think in pictures. It's just, but if you read a book, and we've all read a book, what is it that we're doing when we're reading the book? We're visualizing. And if there's nothing to visualize, well, we make it up anyway. We put it in context. So yeah. Those emojis, emoticons, they used to be called emoticons. They're very good. They can just put it out there real easily. So let me see. Any last thoughts you'd like to give us, Sandy?
Just one that I thought when you were mentioning one of the phrases from one of the books, I think it was something like desire is the principle of creation, the principle of evolution, and evolution is to become better. And then there was something else, but the gist of all of that, I mean, that is a pretty simple statement, but it takes your whole life. It takes your whole life to do that. To find that balance that you were talking about, it takes, like you said, 25 years. I mean, and that was just one aspect of your own life. Place that in all aspects of your life, and boy, it's daunting. That's a lifelong aspiration to aspire to that. It's not easy. I think it's one of the difficult most difficult parts of living, I think. Not that it can't be achieved, but it's a lifelong effort. With a lot of ups and downs.
A lot of ups and downs.
Mhm, mhm.
So we all begin our journey, any journey that we take in ignorance. It's up to us to correct that oversight. It's up to us to not get caught up in bigotry. It's up to us to learn to release what is no longer working for us. Because what's the common definition of insanity? Doing things the same way and expecting a different outcome? Oh, why isn't this working? Well, yeah. It's up to us to do that. It's up to us to hold our hand up and say, hey, I got a question. What does that word mean? And I know sometimes I use some pretty big words, but I expect all of you to hold your hand up and say, hey, what does that word mean? And I'll respond. It's not the first time something like that has happened. Why do you use such big words? Well, I don't know. It just comes naturally to me now. But, and this comes from S.J. Loveland in his book, Mediumship, a course of 7 lectures. Spiritualism and mediumship are progressive. And I want to thank all of you for your words, your thoughts, your energy. I want to thank you for sharing that with all of us and allowing me to share this with you.